At my sister's engagement party, while everyone cheered around the lavish three-tier cake, I received a gift from my parents, an empty velvet box and a crumpled pawn ticket. The ticket clearly described, antique sapphire ring, engraved K.M. inside. That was the heirloom my grandmother had entrusted to me alone. The whole hall sparkled, yet for me, that moment was as cold as being dragged out of my own family. I still remember the joyous gleam in my parents' eyes as my sister sliced the cake, while I clutched the strange slip of paper. On one side was laughter, glittering chandeliers, clinking wine glasses; on the other, a numbness spreading from my fingers into my chest. That sapphire ring was never just jewelry, it was proof that once, just once, I mattered, and now it had been reduced to a number typed on a pawn slip. What unsettled me most was the signature. It was my name, written in strokes so perfect it made me shiver. Who had impersonated me? And why did my parents smile as they handed me that gift, as if nothing were wrong? I couldn't know then that from this single detail, a whole web of secrets would begin to unravel. The chandelier still poured golden, honey-like light as I left the party, but outside on Denver's night streets, everything turned flat and cold, like glass. I placed the velvet box on the passenger seat, folded the pawn slip into quarters under the seatbelt, then sat still for a few breaths until my heartbeat stopped pounding like a drum. In my mind, laughter, toasts, the hired jazz band blurred together, but inside that polite noise stretched a silence lasting 36 years. I turned on the heater, watched the windshield fog and clear, revealing the snowy Rockies like a silver blade. Interstate 25 lay empty, road signs glowing like forgotten notes. I thought about my grandmother's sapphire ring, the one time in this family I was given something not for Brooke, not for image or connections, but because I had pushed through long school years and come home with a diploma. The ring bore tiny letters, K.M. Kimberly Mayfield, small enough for anyone not looking to miss, but clear enough to remind me I had once been called by my true name. I parked behind my apartment building, shut off the engine, and photographed the pawn slip under the dome light. Ash gray paper, a curled corner, ink slightly smudged like a rushed confession. I sent it to Jonah with a note. Need to talk tomorrow morning. Then I forwarded a copy to Sloan. Check the data fields. I suspect forged documents. My fingers shook, not from cold but from something I had avoided naming for years. Shame that wasn't mine, yet still clung to me like a soaked coat. The night dragged on, and like every night after family gatherings, I opened the plastic box of keepsakes. On top were pre-printed graduation cards, a few blurry photos of me in a flat cap, smiling stiffly through cheap mascara. Beneath them, I kept an old leather notebook, fragmented entries from the times of no birthday gift this year. Money's tight, Brooke needs it more, you understand. I wrote them not to hold grudges, but to remind myself I hadn't imagined it. Through my job auditing city contracts, I had learned to read numbers like wood grain. They reveal where the hand has passed. I flipped to a page marked by a wrinkled yellow tab. The year I was 16, the promised film camera for topping my science class was replaced with a coupon for Brooke's summer ballet program. I remembered that morning. Mom had said, "You can take pictures with your phone, Kimberly. Your sister needs experiences to build confidence." That phrase, needs experiences, had followed us like an unwritten privilege, the key that opened doors for Brooke. I, on the other hand, was handed the password. Figure it out yourself. Headlights outside cast moving arcs on the ceiling. I closed the notebook, poured warm water, and let my mind trace the small milestones that now lined up into a chain. My 18th birthday. Brooke had an outdoor bash, tent strung with lights, patio heaters, a tiered cake with white frosting. The next year, my dinner was 3 plates, Mom whispering, "We're saving for Brooke's college tuition, you'll understand." I nodded, truly believing sacrifice was a form of love. Years later, after signing my first contracts, I realized love doesn't require receipts, but favoritism always leaves accounting trails. I never blamed Brooke for what she received. It's hard to refuse gifts wrapped in parental expectation. Still, sometimes I long to tell someone about the silence between words, where figure it out yourself carried the weight of a sentence. Like at my high school graduation, our family seats empty, mom texting, "Your sister has a soccer game, you'll understand." I still walked across the stage, still smiled, still spoke about perseverance. That night, I taped Brooke's game schedule into my notebook beside my award, so I'd never forget how priorities were defined. The glass cooled in my hand. I opened my laptop, pulled up an old spreadsheet titled Household Expenses. Not to balance the family books, but for therapy. I typed columns again: date, event, beneficiary, justification. A friend once said, "Adults don't need evidence to feel hurt," but I, somehow, still needed numbers lined up to listen. When I entered the line year-end fund bought Brooke a camera lens, my mind replayed that afternoon, my sister hugging mom, laughing bright as bells, while I, in a sea of polite guests, searched for a still corner. My phone buzzed. A text from mom: "Home yet? Don't hold a grudge over small things. Next time I'll make it up to you." I stared at the words small things, seeing how they could hold an entire youth inside. I typed slowly: "I'm home. Sleep well." I didn't send it. Deleted. Typed again: "Mom, I lost grandma's ring. Do you know who pawned it?" Deleted. I slid the phone under my pillow, the glow fading like a tired eye. Next morning, snow still dusted the sidewalks. I drove to the corner cafe, where Jonah always chose the window table, easy to exit if needed. He arrived 2 minutes late, clutching recycled folders. "Kim, I saw the photo," he said, setting down his Americano, eyes steady. "Two issues: someone used your identity, and the shop released the ring to them." I nodded. "I don't want a scene if there's a cleaner way." Jonah smirked faintly. "Even a clean path needs signposts. Snap the shop sign, time, and ask for their security footage." I told him about the box, the pawn slip, the history of small things. We lingered after his Americano was gone. "Step by step," Jonah said. 1. Identify the impersonator. 2. Gather every document with your name. 3. Lock down your finances. 4. Keep calm when you speak to your family. I nodded, feeling chaos condense into a checklist. At lunch, I left the office early, stuffed a USB and camera into my bag. I emailed Sloan. "Check signatures, transaction chains, serial numbers, focus on cashier's checks." She replied instantly: "Shoot all four corners, no crop, I'll run ink analysis." The pawn shop sat by a bus stop. I pushed the door, the bell chimed. Metal and wood mingled in the air. The owner, mid-50s, thick glasses, pulled out a brown folder. He laid before me: pawn receipt, redemption slip, photo of the sapphire ring, copy of the ID. "This person signed Kimberly Mayfield," he said. "I assume you'll have thoughts." The photo ID was me, but with the old blue background. Colorado DMV dropped 3 years ago, the issue date listed as recent. I requested full copies, including metadata. When the ring photo appeared, the sapphire glinted cold, the note reading K.M. inside. "Anything else?" I asked. He lowered his voice. "They also had a pearl strand engraved, Diane. Didn't pawn it, just asked the price." Heat flushed my neck, but I stayed even. I flipped the redemption slip. Payment by cashier's check, serial number clear, bank branch I'd never used. The Kimberly Mayfield signature was too perfect, the M sweeping longer than mine ever did. "Security footage still kept?" He nodded. 45 days. "Fill the request. I'll copy to USB." I handed over a pre-printed form. Outside under the awning, I sent files to Sloan with notes: check serials, license issue date, backdrop. She replied: "This serial batch usually tied to business accounts, not individuals. I'll trace it." I updated Jonah, secured video, and copies. Back home, I logged into all 3 credit bureaus. Placed fraud alerts, froze credit, Downloaded reports. A red line appeared. New store card opened 2 months ago at a bridal chain. Details showed 2 large purchases the same day, dress and accessories order numbers nearly identical. Signer. Kimberly M. I called the chain's hotline, speaker on, recorder running. Thank you for calling, I'm Marla. I read the account number, asked for copies of signed receipts. She said, transaction at store 417, Denver. ID presented was valid. I told her, I suspect impersonation. Please flag the account, preserve originals, and log this request, she confirmed. Promised reply within 5 business days. On craft paper, I drew a timeline in blue ink: engagement night, pawn redemption, cashier's check, bridal card, dress, blueback license, new issue date. I taped photos at each point, drew threads to questions: who had motive, who had access, who benefited. Sloan video called. Update. The cashier's check serial ties to a local business, but its address matches the Archer's Street. I zoomed. Identical. Could be someone buying checks through a shell to obscure the trail, she said. I tapped my pen. Jonah messaged, send signatures from pawn and bridal slips. I did. 1 minute later, he called, the sweep on the M, the stop on the Y, they match. Likely same hand. I asked, enough for charges? He said carefully, not yet. But enough to demand preservation letters and force the stores to hold originals. Need the videos, need login logs. I noted it down. Denver sky steel gray, windows glowed for dinner hour. I thought of Brooke's tired eyes last night, and Mom's text, don't stew over small things. Small always came when something was too big to name. I snapped the timeline, sent to Jonah and Sloan. Tomorrow I'll visit store 417. Before shutting down, I opened the velvet box, closed its soft lid. I placed it between the party and pawn slip markers, like a rest in music. I wrote small, not every loss makes noise. Then taped the slip, let it sit as a silent witness. Night fell early. I brewed ginger tea, created a folder titled Kimberly ID, saved every bank and bridal chain file. Emails confirmed frozen credit, preservation requests accepted. Habit calmed me. More data meant less room for panic. Outside, snow slowed. Desk lamp pooled yellow over paper. Photos and threads waited quietly, guiding me toward a place I wasn't ready to name. The apartment hushed like a library after hours. Heater hummed, windows veiled in mist. I hung my coat, washed hands longer, letting warm water ease pulsing veins. The dining table had turned into a war table, lamp glowing. Folders in colors: green for bank, orange for bridal, red for pawn, purple for storage, yellow for family. I set the empty velvet box in the center, a mute anchor for the long night. I opened my laptop, set Do Not Disturb, began drafting letters. First, to Rocky Mini Storage, Preserve Video, Unit B 117, listed times, potential impersonation investigation. Attached ID, cited state statute deadlines, polite but firm. Second, to the bank branch, confirm batch, point of issue, camera if available. Proofread thrice, no speculation, only dates and numbers. My phone buzzed. Jonah, saw your timeline. Don't call family tonight. Tomorrow, fax and email preservation letters, block. Online account access, meet storage manager by afternoon. I said, Mom will send something. Jonah chuckled, then say nothing. Let data walk first. I heard his papers rustle. He always wrote in blue ink. And Kim, he added, get a P.O. box. If someone's diverting your mail, that'll block them. I wrote it down. P.O. Box Colfax Post Office. USPS Informed Delivery Register. Reflex had me open Password Manager, reset 2 emails, enable 2-factor on bank and medical portals. Not paranoia, just the prickle of someone a step ahead. I changed recovery addresses, routed forms to a Google Voice number, kept my real line for family and work. Sloan video called, hair tied up, whiteboard full of arrows. Good news, she said. I traced the blue backdrop. It's the type the state retired 2 years ago. That license is fake or recycled. Relief loosened my shoulders. And the check batch? She winked. Pending, but the shell business next to the Archer is too neat. I'll run corporate history tonight. She hesitated. Kim, eat dinner. Don't just sit with paper. I smiled at the kitchen. I've got lentil soup, thanks Slow. I reheated the pot of soup, the scent of bay leaves and black pepper spreading through the apartment, softening its air from the sternness of a workroom. When the spoon touched the bottom of the bowl, my mind touched a decision. I would not go to my parents' house this weekend as planned. I drafted a polite text, no excuses, just a note about a sudden schedule change. After sending it, I felt as though I had closed a glass door left unlocked, easy to push open again, but tonight, I wanted it closed. I spread out my planner, dividing the page into 3 columns: legal, financial, emotional. Under legal, I wrote preservation letters, a draft identity theft report not yet filed, chain of custody notes for every copy. Under financial, credit freeze complete, check systems, review subaccounts at Dad's old bank. My pen paused at emotional, call doctor Levine for an extra appointment, practice the 4-count breath before reading family texts, clear a shelf for things that steady me, some pottery I'd made, a photo of the Rockies at sunrise, a handwritten letter from Grandma. Jonah emailed a revised preservation letter, note attached, keep the tone neutral. The more emotion, the easier for them to attack. I corrected the date, recipient, signed with my digital certificate. Before hitting send, I looked at the CC field and added Sloan. Everything needed a 3rd set of eyes. I also uploaded the PDF into an encrypted folder. Paper doesn't speak, but how we name and store it gives it weight. Close to 9 p.m., I put on my coat, walked 2 blocks to the post office. The air was dry, the cold stinging my lungs like too cold water. The hallway smelled of paper and ink. I filled out the P.O. box form, showed ID, paid for 6 months, held the small pewter key in my hand. When the clerk asked, "Do you want mail forwarding?" I answered, "Not yet. I'll monitor it myself first." Outside, I stood before the glass door, looking down at the new key. Every key speaks its own language. This one said some letters would now come straight to me, not through any familiar box. Back home, I set the roll of stamps on the table, opened the velvet box, pressed the fraying fabric edge. Part of me wanted to call Mom, ask directly, "Did you take my ring to the shop?" But the part trained to read ledgers knew any answer now wouldn't change the flow of money and signatures. I shut the box and poured the restlessness into controlled motions, labeling folders, numbering pages, making a detailed index. Each binder got a summary sheet: event, evidence, parties involved, gaps to fill. I drew an arrow from the Archer to intermediary business, ending in an empty circle waiting for a name. A new email alert: Rocky Mini Storage confirmed receipt of my letter, would preserve video for 14 days, asked me to schedule an in-person viewing. I replied at once, "I'll come at 1:30 p.m. with my attorney. Please prepare the guest log and 2 months of entry records." After sending, I leaned back, chair creaking like a sigh. Plans always brought a strange calm, even if I knew I'd only built the frame. Sloan texted, "Sign up for USPS address change alerts. Impersonators sometimes file them to steal mail." I pulled up the site, entered info, paid the verification fee. The screen read, "We will send a confirmation letter to your old address." I jotted in my notebook, "Track confirmation letter. If off, call immediately." By 10 p.m., the city slowed. I dimmed the lights, left only the desk lamp. Papers no longer looked like a pile of chaos. They were becoming a story I was telling, not a picture where I stood outside the frame. I played soft music, classical pieces Dad used to like. Memories knocked open, the polished wood scent of our old piano, Dad's fingers hesitant on keys, Mom leaning in the kitchen doorway, Brooke running circles. I wondered when family in my memory shifted from warm kitchen lights to cold storage doors. The question drifted away like breath, leaving silence enough to hear the steady hum of the heater. I opened a drawer, took out Grandma's fountain pen heavy, pressing ink deep into the page. On a fresh sheet, I wrote large, plan. Under it, 3 bullet points: preserve evidence, block damage, stay calm in dialogue. Then, slanted beneath, do not confront without enough facts. As the nib scratched, I felt my shoulders lower, like setting down a stone. The phone lit short text from Brooke. You still up? The 3 dots blinked, stopped, blinked again. I turned the phone face down, not to avoid but to buy time. Tomorrow, a long list would wait for Jonah and me. For now, in the quiet apartment, I focused on each breath moving through my chest, noting my heart still doing its work steady, unexaggerated. The papers were still there, the velvet box still empty, but the larger picture had shifted. Instead of drifting, I was redrawing the banks of the river. Morning in Denver blurred the window glass, but the image in my head blurred more. Pawn shop video, the moment I signed to redeem the ring. Sloan had sent a file with a note, Zoom bottom, right. I brewed coffee, opened the software, froze the instant the pen hit paper. In the frame's edge, keys dangled, reflecting light, flashing a white badge. I captured, raised contrast, reduced noise. Letters emerged, Rocky Mini Storage, beneath, B117 tilted. I sent it to Jonah, looks like a unit number. I'll request a visit. He replied, don't go alone. Get guest log, entry logs, gate video. I forwarded it to Sloan. She wrote, I'll deblur, generate a forensic report. Note, restored image, no alteration. On my table, the velvet box sat beside craft paper. I drew an arrow from the badge to storage unit on my timeline, handwrote, who has key B117. That question tilted the chart. If the person pawning the ring carried a storage badge, they were among those with access family, or someone who had crossed my threshold. Email from Rocky Mini arrived quickly. They'd hold data 14 days, invited me to set an on-site session. I picked 1:30 p.m. Noon on Colfax ran thin traffic. The facility's green sign rose behind a metal fence, silver gate, small office nearby. I snapped the sign, stepped in. The manager, middle-aged, plaid shirt worn, took my letter and time list. You can view on-site. Copies require attorney documentation. My lawyer's on the way, I said. In the lot I texted Jonah, surveillance ready. Bring chain of custody forms. He replied, 15 minutes. I looked down the gray roll-up doors, white numbers painted, like a city's memory vault. I recalled the kitchen wall from childhood, the wooden key rack shaped like a house. My fingertips numbed at the thought of cold metal. Jonah arrived, long coat, case in hand. Let the cameras speak, he murmured. I nodded. The manager led us into a control room, smelling of plastic. 4 screens showed pale green hallways. He entered dates. Video rewound, played forward, the main gate appeared. 14 days ago, a beige sedan stopped at the reader. Overhead camera caught half a face. My mother, hair in a bun, chestnut coat, thin gloves. Passenger seat, a man in a dark knit cap. I wrote, 10:22, beige sedan, main gate, mom, companion. Switch to B hallway. Cold light cut across concrete. B117 gleamed at the end. Minutes later, Mom and the man appeared, pushing a dolly. Mom unlocked, door rolled waist-high. The man dragged a carton taped clear. On top, black marker. Kimberly College, then Kimberly Photos. My knees buckled like missing a stair. Stop, Jonah said. The manager paused. I inhaled, nodded. Continue. They lifted a smaller, deep red box, label blurred, first 3 letters clear. JEW. The man placed it on the dolly. Mom relocked, tested the handle. We watched 2 more visits, days apart. Once Mom alone, thick gloves, cradling the red box, each time under 17 minutes. I noted. Coat, gloves, purse, head tilt-it lock. Ordinary details turned into signs. When the footage ended, silence hummed loud enough to hear the clock tick. Manager said, "Copies need attorney request." Jonah nodded. "We'll file today." Outside, sunlight flared on white numbers. Wind cut the collar of my coat. Jonah tapped my elbow. "Okay?" I nodded, then shook my head, then nodded. "I'm not assuming yet," I said. "But I need to know why my name is on those boxes." He stared at the row of doors. "By procedure. I'll get guest logs. You track plates." We returned to the desk. The manager opened a thick yellowed ledger. Signatures, times, plates lined like shaky stamps. I photographed each page. Last week's entry bore a familiar but skewed hand. Diane M., 2 ends fused. Beside it, the beige sedan's plate. Leaving the facility, I pressed my palm to the cold fence, imagining stacked memories behind doors. In the car, I sent guest log shots to Jonah and Sloan. "Jonah, enough to demand access logs. I'll run plates with DMV." Sloan, Diane with fused and a writing habit. "Not proof." Traffic lights cycled slow. A small truck hauling appliances passed, cartons like those I'd just seen. A flash memory. Tape pulled long, hurried move when I was 18. I blinked, pulled the present back in lane. At my exit, I signaled. The guest log packet on my seat felt strangely heavy, like paper retaining truth. Tonight would bring more emails, letters, threads to tie. But for now, the keyword B117 had emerged from blur, not an answer, but a door. And I held the key to open it. Camera session, guest log, a clear enough question to light the way. I closed my notebook, breathed deep, paced my breath slow, like steps through an empty hall. Next afternoon, Denver was dry, cold. I parked at Rocky Mini Storage, texted Jonah, "I'm here." The gate slid, hallway met me with dry dust smell. Manager, plaid shirt, led me. Attorney's letter came. "You may inventory as listed. All actions recorded." I signed custody log, pulled on thin gloves. B117's metal scarred at hip height. I pressed my palm to steel, knowing I stood there. Jonah arrived minutes later. "Follow the list, no more, no less," he said softly. The manager unlocked, pulled cord. Door lifted, revealing cool dark. Smell of old paper and cloth hit. On shelves, cartons labeled in bold black. Kimberly College, Kimberly Photos, Kimberly Docs. Heavy strokes my mother's hand. My heart stalled. Jonah switched on recorder. Manager spread craft paper. I pulled down photos. Tape half torn. I sliced, opened. Inside, rubber-banded stacks, cheap albums, large envelope marked in red, unsorted. I poured it. Photos spilled. Me in Navy uniform, me beside Woodbridge model, me at graduation stage. Where adults should be. Frames were empty. "Log time," Jonah reminded. I flipped, shot photo codes, years. At bottom, worn wooden frames, one stained brown with coffee. We moved to docs. On top, deep red folder, label, transcripts Kimberly. Inside, admissions, scholarship letters, report cards, thank you notes. A thick cream envelope, bank records. Inside, copies of credit cards I'd never opened, 2 bridal chain bills, signatures, Kimberly M., ruler straight. A loan consolidation sheet fell, clipped to an email with address, nearly my name, 1 letter off. "Record it," Jonah said. I shot all corners, filed into folder O1. Next, college. On top, a faded hoodie. Beneath, a wine-colored velvet box, corners rubbed. I lifted it. Inside, only the dent where the ring once lay. I knew the pawn slip told me. but the hollow still mirrored the student in her dorm mirror. Next, Jonah said. I sealed the empty box in folder. A small, unmarked carton sat in the corner. Lid cracked, perfume scent, mom's evening scent. Inside, a pearl strand, silver clasp engraved Diane. I lifted with clip, photographed, set down. Not on the list, manager said. Jonah answered. Image only. At the bottom, a flat box, label, studio plans. I dragged it, dust rising. Inside, large drawings I'd labored overnights. Pencil streaks, coffee stains, fingerprints. I photographed, proof they were here, proof someone shelved my life without asking. I straightened, shoulders dropping. Why are my things in mom's unit? Because some think your belongings are the family's, Jonah said. But law doesn't see it that way. In my mind, timeline aligned, ring pawned, cashier's check batch near the Archer, bridal store card, forged license. Now, boxes labeled my name under mom's lock. Pieces lined tight, a slit of light. Sloan arrived, set scanner on the fake license copy. Screen glowed fibers, uneven wrong paper stock. Need gate video and swipe logs, she said. Enough to freeze movement. Manager folded hands. By letter, we seal B117 for 7 days. Each opening must include you or counsel, I signed. As the door rolled down, metal groaned like an ellipsis. Outside, sun slanted, wind with melted snow. In my bag, empty velvet box tapped the inventory sheet with each step. At the lot, phone buzzed. Text from mom. Come for soup tonight. I didn't reply. Snapped the facility sign. Save location. You okay? Jonah asked. Okay, within range, I said. That range widened today, he answered. We thanked the manager. Scheduled custody copies. I drove out. In the mirror, rows of doors shrank white. I thought of the cartons, mom's marker, pearl clasp Diane. Not everything inside was secret. Some was just how people rearrange stories. But I'd learned, open the right door, the past doesn't drown you. It appears as inventory, each item a line, each line an evidence, and each evidence a way to give things back their name, and myself back my voice. At the intersection, I flicked on the turn signal. I shoved the file folder into the seat pocket, opened the voice memo app, and read out slowly each item I had just seen in the storage unit. My voice was steady, as if every word laid a brick into place. At the end of the recording, I paused a beat, then stopped. I kept my hand on the steering wheel, letting the warmth seep back into my palm. The road ahead was still long. I would return to that rolling door, by proper procedure, and lift up those boxes bearing my name with hands that no longer trembled. And then keep going. That afternoon, Denver's sky was crystal clear, but the distance between me and my sister stretched like a drawbridge lifting mid-span. I stopped by the Archer for one simple reason: to bring a box of cannoli Brooke had loved since college. The marble-lined lobby desk, the doorman remembering her name, while I was mistaken for the sister-in-law. I smiled, hugged the pastry box, and stepped into the mirrored elevator. The button for 15 lit up like a window in the sky. The door to 15C opened after 2 knocks. Brooke stood there, hair pulled high, shadows under her eyes. Sis, she said, light and cautious. I held up the box. Brought something sweet to make the talk less bitter. She smiled faintly, stepped aside. The apartment still smelled of fresh paint, half-opened cartons, the coffee table draped in newspaper. If not for the stack of papers on the kitchen counter, I could have believed this was a clean start. Val and Dad brought a few things this morning, Brooke said, pouring water. She called our mother Val. They said you were busy, that I should call you later. I glanced around. Candle holders, a vase, picture frames still with price tags. On the counter, a metal clip held down a stack deposit confirmations, HOA fee invoices, and a few receipts. I set the pastry down, palm brushing the stone for balance. How do you feel here? I asked. Brooke shrugged. It's nice, but feels a bit temporary. Dad said the engagement gift was the deposit and 3 months' fees. After that, grown-ups handle it themselves. The phrase grown-ups dropped into the kitchen like two stones. The edge of a gray envelope with a bank logo stuck out, glue wrinkled. You're still not tired of digging through papers, huh? She half joked. I pulled out a chair, nudged the pastry toward her. Eat first, I said. She bit into one, powdered sugar catching at her lip. She sighed softly. I thought people would be congratulating you more. The words slipped out like a secret. I opened the gray envelope, pulled 3 copies of cashier's checks, each issued by a company I didn't recognize, with an address on the same street as the Archer. The payees, Archer 15, CHOA. Archer Concierge, Deposit Holding. In the lower right corner, handwritten, 4K. Mayfield. The K long, thin, rounded a practiced imitation. Brooke set down her glass. Dad said just sign, it was all taken care of, she murmured. But why is my name here? I asked, voice level. She stared at her hands. Dad said to use your name for security. After 3 months, we'd switch it back. Where did you sign? At the bank and the admin desk downstairs, she answered. Dad handed me the stack, said sign for your sister, she's tied up with deadlines. I pulled the rest closer. HOA receipts listed, cleaning, pool, parking, the line for pets crossed out. In pencil at the margin, ask K to approve. On the back, blurred marks from someone writing fast. The letter K appeared 3 times. Don't be mad, Brooke whispered. I just wanted things calm before the wedding. I thought an engagement gift meant less worry, not more. Her fatigue yanked me back to dorm nights. I had been that tired too, only no one noticed. Who copied my documents? I pressed. She froze. Mom, she keeps your old files. Dad said it was just borrowing. I nodded, feeling the rope tighten, the boxes labeled with my name in storage, the sapphire ring, and now the signatures. I pulled out my phone, snapped each sheet, all 4 corners. From now on, don't sign anything with my name, not even as a favor. She nodded. While washing plates, Brooke's phone buzzed nonstop. She flipped it over, the name Val flashed. On the 3rd call, she answered on speaker, I'm busy, Mom. Our mother's voice, come home for dinner tonight. And tell your sister not to snoop through other people's papers, Brooke replied. I invited her for a drink. Don't let anyone ruin the joy, Mom pressed. I'm here, I said calmly. Silence, then her tone softened. Kimberly, you're always so serious. Let your sister breathe. I answered, I need copies of documents with my name. If you help with that, then I'm letting her breathe. Brooke cut in quickly. Mom, I'll be home tonight. Hanging up now. She ended the call. The kitchen held only. The fridge's hum. Brooke leaned on the counter, staring out the window. Do you think things will turn out okay? I think things will become clear, I said. I gathered the papers. HOA, concierge, deposit, 3 cashier's checks. At the bottom, a sofa delivery slip appeared recipient, K. Mayfield or B. Rivers. Rivers was her fiancé's surname. I snapped it, dictated into my phone. Address, date, recipient, the word or liability. I paced the living room. In the corner, cable wires still coiled. I bent and picked up a scrap of tape under the chair. Black marker, had started Kim, then trailed off. At the door, Brooke followed. Don't be angry with Mom, she said. She just has her own ways. I hugged her quickly. Eat more and sleep, I said. She nodded. The threshold of 15C looked like a magazine interior. But at the margins of those papers, another story had surfaced, handwriting too perfectly matched, like someone practicing my name in front of a mirror. The elevator lowered me to the lobby. The doorman asked, Beautiful corner unit, ma'am? It's nice. A bit too much light, I replied. Stepping outside, the late-day wind brushed my forehead. I called Jonah, speaker on. 3 cashier's checks. Payees are the building services. Each marked for K. Mayfield. Mom told me not to snoop. Jonah's tone was grave. Photograph all corners, send to me and Sloan. I'll request preservation at the bank and HOA office. And remember, from here on, everything in writing. Got it, I said, watching the Archer shrink in my rear view. On the 15th floor, one window still glowed. I rolled the window down, let the cold air sting my skin. Ahead, the edge of the sky turned violet. From a glittering engagement gift, the hidden invoices had begun to set rhythm for a storm I hadn't yet named but already heard gathering in the distance. That evening, Denver chilled fast, like curtains. Closing. I sat under the Archer's awning, the cashier's checks and HOA receipts curling at the edges, as if telling the unspoken part themselves. I texted Brooke. Need to meet alone, no one else. She replied, Tea shop downtown, 7. The shop was small, warm light, and cinnamon scent. Brooke arrived late, wrapped in an old scarf. She stared at the sugar bowl to avoid my eyes. I laid the envelope in the center. I'm not here to interrogate, I said slowly. But that signature is my name. Who signed? Brooke set her hand on the edge of the table. I did, she whispered. Dad told me to. The clink of spoon against cup echoed faintly. What did he say? He said you were busy, and that to be secure we'd use your name for a while. She'll understand. At the bank and admin desk, he laid out the papers, pointed at the line. K. Mayfield. I signed like a machine. You knew it was forgery? My voice stayed flat. I knew it was wrong, she exhaled. I thought once the wedding was over, we'd switch it back. I'm sorry, Kim. I thought it was the fastest way to keep peace. I poured more tea to create pause. In my mind, threads on the craft board pulled closer. B117, cashier's checks from businesses on the same street, the forged license with a blue background, and now, the person signing as me, my sister. The pawn ticket for the sapphire ring? I asked. I didn't go. Brooke shook her head. Mom said she was having it fixed. I signed 2 admin forms for the building, writing for K. Mayfield like Dad instructed. He said it was to keep the file clean. The phrase, keep the file clean, echoed. My graduation gift had once been swapped for Brooke's summer course slip to clean her record. I scribbled on the margin. Sidner. Brooke. Under Dad's direction. Then, left the stack between us. Do you have any originals? I asked. No. Dad keeps them. She dropped her gaze. Kim. I know you trust documents, but not everything lives on paper. I know, I said. But once it's under my name, the law will call it what it island. She stayed silent. Outside, the wind swept the sidewalk. The cracks showed, not just favoritism, but a series of convenient choices, pushing the boundary further each time. What did Dad say if I found out? I pressed. He said, your sister is practical, she'll get it. It's all for family. Brooke bit her lip. I'm scared of that phrase, for family. I looked at her. In her eyes was real fear, not of me, but of losing the fragile footing she had at 15C. Tomorrow, meet me with Jonah, I said. Record your account. Not to accuse, just to stop this from going further. From now on, never sign for me. If anyone asks, tell me immediately. She nodded. I will. And, one more thing, from her bag, she pulled a plastic card, placed it in my hand. A white card, Rocky Mini storage logo, back labeled in marker. B117. Mom gave it to me, said when I had time I should go clear out. I couldn't open it. I closed my hand over the card. Thank you, I said. I'll tell the manager the card is here. I'm not like you, Brooke whispered. I take the easy path. I'm sorry. We left the shop as city windows lit up. Back at the Archer's lobby, the The doorman greeted her by name. She entered the elevator. I stayed back, texting Jonah. Signer was Brooke. Directed by Dad. She gave me B117 card. Meeting tomorrow. He called right away. You okay? Okay enough to write, I answered. And enough to separate injury from signature. Tomorrow I'll bring affidavit forms. Don't confront your parents tonight, Jonah said. Keep it all on paper. And Kim, don't go to the storage unit alone. I know. On the way home, I opened the voice memo. Brooke confirmed signing my name on cashier's checks and HOA forms at Dad's request. She was not at the pawn shop. The B117 card is in my possession. Need preservation of entry logs, gate camera, signature comparisons. My voice filled the car like a careful narrator. I pulled into a lot, turned off the engine. Across my chest, a knot loosened by the weight of straight words. At home, the hallway was as quiet as a page about to turn. I switched on the kitchen light, set the storage card beside the empty velvet box. I sealed the card in a clear envelope, wrote date and time, snapped photos, emailed the manager, B117 card in my custody. I CC'd Jonah and Sloan. Reply came, logged. Any unit access requires you or your representative. I exhaled. My phone lit. A message from Mom, dinner tomorrow night. Dad wants to talk. I locked the screen, scribbled on my timeline. Minnie twist. Signer is Brooke. But Minnie no longer fit. This pivot was the spine of the line. I opened a folder. Affidavit, Brooke. I typed headings. Time, place, witnesses, statement, pressure, exhibits. I lifted the phone. Brooke, bring all texts from Dad asking you to sign, plus photos. I can't carry your fear for you. I just need the truth. She whispered. Okay. I printed drafts for her to initial. On the velvet box, I stuck a note. Never left empty twice. Not to blame, but to remind myself not to let voids shelter excuses. Denver's night drew a thin frost across the window. I dimmed the lights. The card rested sealed, the velvet box beside it. I dropped the Kim tape scrap into a small glass vial, labeled it Field Note. Before sleep, I reopened the memo, adding today's line. The unexpected signer is the one who most needs protection from the habit of signing for others. Next step, document, preserve, bring witnesses. I saved, placed the phone face down. The kitchen warmed faintly, like a room just slid shut by a panel door, letting the papers lie. Still until morning. The road back to the suburb where I grew up stretched like a gray thread at dusk. The air was crisp, a dusting of snow clung to the lawns, and my parents' red brick house stood fixed like an old photograph. I parked at the driveway, peered through the window, curtains aglow, silhouettes moving in the dining room. A text popped on the screen, 7 o'clock, don't be late, Mom made chicken soup. I drew a slow breath, pocketed the phone, carried the file and the empty velvet box. Tonight was called reconciliation, but in my mind it was only a checklist of steps to keep my name from being used one more time. The door opened on the second knock. Mom hugged my shoulders, her perfume familiar. You've lost weight, she said, eyes flicking over the folder. I smiled with the politeness I had mastered long ago. Dad appeared behind her, ladle in hand, voice booming, come in, the soup's hot. The dining table was neat, cream cloth, low candles, matching bowls. Brooke was already there, hair knotted high, neck bare. She glanced at the box in my hand, then looked away, a small motion like swallowing a sigh. Dinner began with the ladle tapping the pot. Mom served soup, asking about my job in practiced tones. I answered briefly, leaving room for silence. Dad recounted bits of news, laughing loudly at parts he found amusing. Brooke held her spoon like walking on thin ice. When the second round was set down, Dad cleared his throat. We're here tonight to speak plainly, no blaming. Family first. He looked at me, signaling a change of subject. I nodded lightly. Yes, I want to speak plainly, too. I opened the folder, spread out 3 copies of cashier's checks, the confirmation of condo management fees, and the photo of the B117 storage card. These are documents in my name, I said evenly. The signature, K. Mayfield, was signed by Brooke at someone else's request. My mother's spoon froze midair. My father leaned back, arms crossed. It was just temporary, holding the name. After the wedding, it'll be switched. You work with numbers, you understand how to maneuver. I looked directly at him. I understand the law. And I understand a signature is responsibility. Kimberly, my mother softened her tone, don't turn family matters into problems. Brooke set her spoon down, whispered, I signed. I already told her. My father snapped at her. Kids should stay quiet. I laced my fingers steady. No one here is a kid. I set the velvet box in the middle of the table and opened it. The indented shape of the ring stared back, quieter than any words. Grandmother's sapphire ring was pawned and redeemed with cashier's checks from the same batch as these, I said. I have video and a preservation order. My father scoffed. It was just taken for repair. The prong was loose. Your mother worried it would be lost. My mother nodded quickly, eyes avoiding the box. I turned the tablet, paused on the frame of the B117 roll-up door, lifting. This is Rocky mini storage. 2 weeks ago, you and a man in a knit cap entered 3 times. Boxes labeled Kimberly Photos, Kimberly Docs, Kimberly College were wheeled out. A butter knife clattered onto a plate, the sound stretching like a taut string. My mother blinked slowly, voice suddenly dry. We were tidying keepsakes. Winter's coming. I asked, why were those things in a rented unit, not at home? She pressed her lips. The unit is safe. My father cut in, and cheaper than cluttering everywhere. I looked at Brooke. She averted her gaze, hands gripping the napkin, knuckles pale. I closed the tablet, pushed the copies to the center. I need 3 things. 1. Stop all transactions in my name without me. 2. Return my original documents. 3. From today on, all communication in writing. My father laughed, the same sound that had once made me shrink as a child. You sound like you're in court. I answered, I'm speaking as an adult. My mother whispered, Kim, understand your sister, she's about to marry. Don't weigh her down. I turned to Brooke, I'm not weighing you down. I'm lifting a burden that, if it breaks later, would fall on you. The garden wind rattled the window, the bay laurel pot trembled. My father set the ladle down, palm open like a verdict. I've carried this family my whole life. I know what's practical. Paperwork can wait right now. Family must stand together. I answered steadily. Family stands together, but not on one person's name, and call it love. My mother reached to my neck, an old habit to hush me. Kimberly, when you're grown, you should be generous. I eased back half a step, set her hand on the table's edge. I'm being generous with the truth. The air thickened. Brooke drew a sharp breath, then said, I signed. It's not her fault. Her voice trembled but was clear. My father looked at her for a long time, then back at me. What do you want? I answered each word. Boundaries. And truth. My mother dabbed at her eyes, but no tears fell. She stirred the cold soup. Tomorrow I'll find the documents. I nodded. I'll come with Jonah. I need a handover record. My father chuckled again. Bringing a lawyer into our kitchen. What a joke. I didn't smile. I remembered nights as a child, in this same room, doing homework on a side chair because the dining table was reserved for his guests. I'd never had a rightful seat in my own house. The heater clicked on. Scents of celery, burning wood, and my mother's perfume blended like an old refrain. I lifted the spoon, sipped just enough warm soup. Slowly, I recounted, like marking beats, my 18th birthday, Brooke's yard party and the 3-person dinner the year after, the empty chair at my graduation, scholarship checks sent home and funneled into a joint account for convenience. Not to accuse, but to place pieces back where they belonged. My father stayed silent, eyes on the dark yard. My mother laid a hand on his, signaling him to swallow words stuck in his throat. We sat in silence a long while. The clock's hand passed 7. Wind leaned, a candle flame tilted, our shadows stretched across the cloth. Brooke broke it. If I bring all the papers to her, will you be angry? My mother startled. What kind of talk is that? She gave a sad smile. I'm just asking. My father waved. Enough. I murmured. Bring them tomorrow. The sooner, the less trouble. My father's phone buzzed hard. He glanced, muted it, face down. My mother poured more water, asked lightly, Kim, are you staying home tonight? I looked at the wall of family photos, mostly Brooke glowing, me blurred in the background. I'll be at a nearby hotel, I said evenly. I'll return tomorrow. She nodded, thin hand circling the dishes. I'll pack you some bread, she said, as if a brown paper bag could mend cracks. I thanked her. My father put away the ladle, clapped the lid down, metal hit metal, low and final. I stacked the velvet box on the papers. I'm not asking for apologies. I'm asking, from now on, will you respect my name? Brooke nodded quickly, like someone finding a handrail. My father drained his glass, set it hard on the table. The thud made me look up. He said slowly, I need time. I nodded. So do I. The clock edged past 8. My mother rose to clear bowls, asked calmly, Tea? Anyone? Brooke said yes, then quieted. I slid the papers into a folder, light glinted on silverware, on porcelain rims. Water ran steady in the sink. In that rhythm, I knew the conversation wasn't finished, but what needed naming had been named. No one would ever again borrow my voice to speak, or my signature to pay for things labeled for family. I sat still, listening to the kettle sing, waiting for the tray of tea, keeping time with my own breath. The wall clock ticked slow and steady. The next evening, frost veiled the windshield as I turned onto the street leading to the red brick house. The wooden door cracked open, dining light spilled a yellow ribbon across the concrete like a film spooling backward. I carried the empty velvet box, tablet, and envelope of papers that had silenced the engagement party. A message from my mother. Come early. I stepped across the porch, boards creaking, celery scent rising from the kitchen. My mother's hand rested on my shoulder. Tonight we talk it out, then eat. My father stood by the stove, ladle in hand. Brooke sat at the table's edge, eyes dark. On the cream cloth, crystal glasses gleamed. I pulled a chair, set the velvet box in the center, like dropping a stone into a pond. This family doesn't want to fight, my father began. Your mother took the ring for repair. The paperwork is temporary, just until the wedding. I said, I want everything in the light. I lifted the box lid. The indented velvet lay bare, and its emptiness spoke for me. The other half, I set the tablet beside it, is in the footage already preserved. I played the video, rocky mini storage's hallway, white lights, the B117 door lifting. My mother appeared in frame, brown coat, thin gloves, behind her, a man in a dark knit cap. They pushed a cart, pulled out cartons taped clear, black marker reading, Kimberly photos. Tidying keepsakes, my father said. I slid further. The video showed my mother opening a wine-colored velvet box, her hands careful. The man leaned close, fingers probing the lining. I froze the frame. What was he looking for? No one answered. I stopped the video, pulled the box closer. I turned its base. Beneath the velvet, a hair-thin line of clear glue. With tweezers, I pried up the lining. A black memory card, no larger than my pinky nail, popped from a slit. Brooke gasped. My mother gripped her chair. My father leaned in. Since when? My mother asked. Could be a long time, I said. Grandmother gave me the ring in this box on my graduation day. I slid the card into a reader. 3 video files appeared. I opened the oldest. The frame trembled, likely from a mini camera set in the living room. A Christmas tree, gold lights, grandmother's shadow, my mother hugging me, my father beaming as I held a diploma. Grandmother lifted the sapphire ring from the box, placed it in my hand, lips forming, "Keep your name." I answered, "I promise." I clicked the second file. Another Christmas, years later. The angle lower, like from a shelf. I wrapped a lens gift for Brooke. My mother placed a card. "You've always been resourceful." My father held the ring under the lamp, set it back. Off screen, someone warned, "Don't wear it on site." I laughed. "Just on weekends." The box shut. I opened the third. The B117 unit, same view, the hum of a fan. My mother and the man in the knit cap pushed in a cart, opened the velvet box, his fingers probing the false lining right where I'd found the card. He found nothing, frowned. My mother said clearly, "Leave no trace." He nodded, handed her the ring. She slipped it inside her coat. The roll-up door lowered. The metal screeched like a drawn line sealing a ledger. I stopped the video. The dining room echoed with the fridge's motor. "This can't be called temporary," I said, soft but firm. One box carried the whole truth. My father set the ladle down, metal clanging heavy. "Family must be flexible," he said. "Flexibility is different from blur," I replied. My mother leaned forward, hands trembling. "Some things aren't yours to bear. We carried them so you'd be at ease." I shook my head. "I'm at ease when my name isn't used like tape." Brooke touched my wrist, then withdrew. "I know the man in the video," she whispered, "but I'm not sure I should say here." My father shot her a sharp look. She lowered her head, clutching the napkin. I gathered the card, box, tablet. "I need originals of my documents, the man's full name, and the reason cashier's checks came from companies right on the Archer Street." I spoke slowly, item by item. "I'm not asking for apologies tonight. I'm asking for light." "Your light blinds the family," my father said. I looked at the low flame. "Light doesn't hurt, it only shows outlines." My mother stood, poured water. "Tomorrow," she said, voice steadier, "I'll take you to the storage room. There are folders you haven't seen." I nodded. "I'll come with Jonah." Everything in writing. Wind swept the yard. A windmill tapped the railing. The clock inched past 7. I set my hand on the box lid, velvet smooth under my skin. I said nothing more. The images had spoken, the empty box at the engagement dinner, the wrinkled pawn ticket, the B117 roll-up, the clear glue seam, the memory card all linked, forming a chain no, for family could cut. Brooke pushed her soup toward me. "Eat before it's cold." I smiled, slid it back. "You eat." My mother placed a hand on my shoulder, not to hush, just resting. "You're tired," she said. "I'm clearer than ever," I replied. My father rose, then sat again, ladle down. Through the window, a pale crescent moon spilled, the dining room stilled, like a stage after music faded. I let the silence stretch, as if the hidden camera in the box were still rolling. 4 people at a table, none touching soup, each staring at a different light, while the velvet box lay steady, like a prop, returned to its rightful role. On the weekend afternoon, Denver snow had melted, sidewalks slick, as if wiped with a cold cloth. I drove to my apartment, opened windows to let air mix with warm wood and mint tea. On the table, the empty velvet box stood. Beside clipped files, across from it, the glass jar holding the Kim tape scrap from 15C. Late sun touched the box, velvet glinting like water. I set my hand on it, not to search, but to teach my heart to stand still before evidence that no longer cut. Jonah called to say he'd be 10 minutes late. Sloan texted she'd dropped the forensic report before the airport. I tidied the counter, rinsed the coffee mug, left it on cloth. When the machine hissed its last, the door knocked twice. Monica came in, arms full of daisies and rain scent. She set them down, slipped off her coat, scanned the room like checking a patient's pulse after surgery. "The air is breathing steadier," she said. I smiled, poured tea. "This afternoon, the community center begins family counseling." Monica nodded. "Cook and eat too, don't just talk." Sloane arrived, laid down her report, peeled off gloves. "Ink matches, fake license on wrong stock, cashier's checks routed through shell firms," she summed. Then looked at me. "The rest is your choice, data's done its part." I hugged her tightly. She left quick. Jonah came soaked, dropped a folder. "Diversion agreement signed, therapy schedule, repayment plan confirmation from the Archer, locking all transactions in my name." "Want to put the velvet box in the safe?" he asked. "No," I said. "Keep it where I can see but not stumble over." Monica chuckled. "Marking boundaries with furniture, I like it." We laughed, then quiet, the comfortable kind. Afternoons slipped into appointment time. The counseling room painted almond, window on a small park where a maple folded like a closed umbrella. The counselor, Harriet, silver hair in a loose bun, voice low. My mother arrived first, sat left, clutching a canvas bag. Brooke came with me, carrying her stack of printed papers. The middle chair empty. Dad texted he was circling for parking. Harriet asked us to silence phones, reminded no recording, words would stay within walls and the healing process. My father entered, coat open, cold air trailing. He sat far end, glanced out the window, straightened. Harriet outlined the session, each person 5 minutes to share what they want from this, no interruptions. My mother spoke first, voice slow. "I want us to talk without fearing we'll be misunderstood. I want to learn not to help too much." My father looked down a beat, then said, "I want to find, not what we had, but a place where I don't survive by making others hurt." Brooke smoothed her papers. "I want to learn not to ask anyone to sign for me, even when I'm scared." When it was my turn, I looked at the woven rug with its small squares and said, "I want my name to belong only to me. I want a family defined by respect, not by possession." No one cleared their throat. Those words fell like a few pebbles, setting the surface of the lake to ripple. Harriet nodded and handed out 4 printed cards. Boundaries, responsibility, choice, repair. She asked which card should go in the middle of the table. I moved responsibility next to boundaries. My mother looked at those 2 words longer than I expected. "Tomorrow," she said, "I'll bring the rest of the papers to Jonah's office. I'm willing to sign the handover." I heard as if a hinge in my chest had been oiled. Harriet suggested a small exercise. Each of us, write a letter to ourselves from 6 months ago, naming one wish that wouldn't hurt anyone. I thought of the engagement party night, the empty box, the crumpled pawn slip. If I could write to my past self then I'd say, "Don't try to calculate your feelings like a spreadsheet, just name them." I wrote that sentence on the paper, folded it into thirds, and put it in my wallet. Leaving the center, drizzle dusted the streets. Everything looked wet with a soft shine. Monica texted, "Come over tonight for lentil soup, the whole group's coming." The group were the people who had stood with me these past months. Elliot from the environmental engineering team, Mrs. Irene downstairs who grows summer tomatoes, Mr. Parker, who plays raw guitar, the older couple who'd just moved from Ohio, always bringing baked goods. I replied, "I'll come," feeling another rope being tied to the side of my boat. Monica's kitchen was warm in a way that felt strange. The soup pot simmered and sometimes bubbled, spoons striking the pot kept rhythm. Elliot brought multigrain bread and set it on the wooden board. Mrs. Irene arranged pickles and told a story about a fence knocked down by wind. Mr. Parker played a few chords while waiting for the soup to cool. Monica handed me a felt-tip pen and a blank card. "Letter to yourself from 6 months ago, write a few lines." I wrote, "If people don't see me, I still exist. I am the one who keeps the beat for myself." The meal moved in slow motion. No one pried about legal matters out of curiosity. They asked if I was sleeping, if I wanted more salt, what fish sauce I preferred. Those small questions were like wedges, keeping the structure upright. Elliot poured tea in a low voice. If you need someone to go with you to any counseling, call me. Mr. Parker laughed. I don't understand the language in those files, but I know rhythm. Once the rhythm is steady, the song holds itself. I said, I'm learning to count rhythm by spoons and by documents. Before I left, Monica handed me a spare apartment key. Keep it in your wallet, so you always have an open door. I hugged her longer than usual. Gratitude now was not sharp like fire, but warm like an upholstered chair back. Back home, I switched on the yellow lamp at the windowsill. The empty velvet box was still there. I placed beside it a new photo, the whole group in Monica's kitchen, steam on the glass, everyone leaning toward someone else. I didn't erase the old photos in the photos box. I let them stand with the new picture, like two doors facing each other, down a bright hallway. On the table, I opened my calendar, penciled in 12 therapy sessions, 6 payment deadlines, 4 dinner nights together. The calendar looked like scaffolding, not pretty, but load-bearing. My phone buzzed. Mom texted. I called Brooke. She took an extra shift to help with repayments. I'm glad you're talking. I typed, thanks for letting me know. Meet you at Jonah's office tomorrow. I paused, then added, I hope you sleep well. The 3 dots appeared, then vanished, then reappeared. I hope so too, she texted. Night slid across the window like a strip of black silk. I turned off most of the lights, leaving a single desk lamp. The light fell on the 2 words I had placed at the counseling table. Boundaries and responsibility now. I rewrote them in my own handwriting on a small sticky note and stuck it to the wall. Tomorrow we would talk again, sign again, and take more small steps forward. I didn't know which turn the story's curve would take next. I only knew I would no longer walk alone, nor walk in place of anyone else. I smiled. Perhaps by now, each of you listening is asking yourself, if you were in my place, what choice would you make? Would you have the courage to draw a boundary, to protect your own dignity, even if it meant facing your family in pain and truth? I would truly love to hear your thoughts because sometimes another person's perspective can shine a light on our own path. Because in the end, the message isn't only for me but for all of us. True family is not measured by blood, but by respect and genuine love. That is the place we can return to, without sacrificing our name, our dignity, or our worth. If you feel the same, please share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to follow the channel so we can continue together into the next stories, stories that touch the heart, about family, about choices, and about how we find the true meaning of the word family.